Wayne Gretzky is obviously the greatest player of all time, and today I'm going to be replaying his entire career. We are going to start out on the Edmonton Oilers and then get traded to the LA Kings, and then the St. Louis Blues, and finally the New York Rangers, where he ended his career in real life. We are going to be replaying his entire career exactly like it was in real life, and we will find out if he's still the greatest player of all time. Wayne Gretzky is obviously going to start out at a 99 overall alongside Connor McDavid, who is a 99, and Leon Draisaitl, who is a 95. So this first line is absolutely stacked along with the rest of the team, to be honest. It's a very good team put together, and yeah, I'm definitely expecting multiple Stanley Cups. Sorry, Connor McDavid, the captaincy must go to Wayne Gretzky. There we go, baby. Wayne Gretzky had a great rookie year, 57 goals, 129 points. While Draisaitl and McDavid barely hit 100 points, Draisaitl did. McDavid only had 98. Gretzky would obviously lead the league in points with 129, followed by Mitch Marner with 101. Jonathan Huberdeau had 100. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Tage Thompson, and Austin Matthews. The Oilers would finish the regular season going 43, 34, and 5. Luckily, they made the playoffs just barely. And in year number 1, the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup final against the Boston Bruins. And just like that, in Gretzky's very first season, the Edmonton Oilers are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup in Gretzky's rookie year. They call him the Great One for a reason. Wayne Gretzky is your Conn Smythe winner. I can just imagine the points he put up. Who else would it be? This guy's the greatest of all time. Hey, yo, look at that beard, though. He do look kind of fine. I'm not gonna lie. And here he comes, the greatest player of all time and the captain of the Edmonton Oilers, Wayne Gretzky, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career. Wayne Gretzky is starting his career off hot. Gretzky would have 25 goals and 43 points in the playoffs. He would also take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, and of course the Conn Smythe as well. Wayne Gretzky is still obviously a 99 overall. Connor McDavid is still a 99, and Leon Draisaitl is a 96. We have a +5 on the first line. Alright, boys, it's time to go back-to-back. Gretzky would finish his second season with 68 goals and 142 points, while Connor McDavid would have 46 goals and 140 points. Gretzky obviously led the entire NHL in points, followed by Connor McDavid, Matthew Barzal, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and Alex Ovechkin. For goals, Gretzky had the most, followed by Matthews, Ovi. Crosby had 51. I think Crosby only scored 51 once in his entire career. Yeah, he did way back in 2009. That was his only time that he ever scored 50 goals in his career, and now at 36 years old, he's going to score it again. The Oilers would finish the season with a 49, 25, and 8 record, finishing first in their division. Yet again, we will face the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup final for a second year in a row, and unfortunately, it looks like in Game 7, the Boston Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup. Gretzky would yet again have a great playoff run, 12 goals and 42 points in 21 games, but unfortunately, that was not enough as the Boston Bruins are going to beat us in 7 games in the Stanley Cup final. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. Adam Fox would take home the Norris. David Pastrnak would take home the Conn Smythe. Igor would take home the Vezina. And Anze Kopitar would take home the Selke. Gretzky and McDavid are both still 99 overalls, and Leon is still a 96. As long as we have these guys, I believe we will still be able to compete for a Stanley Cup. I mean, come on now, this got to be the greatest first line in NHL history. 2 99s and a 96. Okay, what in the is going on right now? Connor McDavid just scored 160 points while Wayne Gretzky had 149. Gretzky had 64 goals, Draisaitl 57, McDavid 49. This simulation has gone off the rails. Holy shit, Draisaitl also had 140 points. We had 3 140-point scorers on the same team. They would obviously be the 3 best scorers in the entire NHL, followed by David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander. For goals, Matthews would be tied with Gretzky at 64, then Draisaitl, Kucherov, Ovechkin, Patrick Laine, and Connor McDavid. The Oilers would have their best season yet, 53 wins, 23 losses, and 6 overtime losses, and would finish first in their division. We would end up losing in the second round to Vegas in 6 games, and they would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat the Rangers in 5 games. Davo would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, while Gretzky, he would take home the Maurice Richard. Jack Eichel would take home the Conn Smythe, Vasi would take home the Vezina, and the Selke would go to Sid the Kid. And our trio is still intact. Draisaitl must have re-signed for 8 more years at $9.5 million, while McDavid, did he re-sign? No, he has 1 more year left on his $12.5 million contract. Hopefully he will re-sign with the Oilers. Gretzky would have 51 goals and 133 points, while Draisaitl would have 109 and McDavid would have 107. Yet again, he leads the entire NHL in points, followed by Draisaitl, McDavid, Kucherov, Connor Bedard had 101 on the San Jose Sharks. The Oilers yet again have an amazing regular season, 50 wins, 26 losses, 6 overtime losses, and they would finish first in the Pacific. Yet again, we would lose to Vegas in 6 games in the second round, and they would go on to win the Stanley Cup, beating Tampa in 6 games. Gretzky would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Jack Eichel would yet again take home the Conn Smythe. Devin Levi would win the Vezina, and Elias Lindholm would take home the Selke. So luckily, Connor McDavid would re-sign in the offseason for 8 more seasons at $9.3 million. And you already know Wayne Gretzky is a 99 overall. Now come on, boys, let's go win another Stanley Cup, eh? It has been a couple years since we just cannot beat Vegas in the second round. Wayne Gretzky would end up having 71 goals and 148 points. Connor McDavid would have 122 and also 50 goals. Leon Draisaitl, he would have 120 points. Gretzky obviously leads the NHL in points, followed by his 2 line mates, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Then David Pastrnak, Elias Pettersson, Brad Marchand, Nathan MacKinnon, and Nikita Kucherov. But I mean, nothing beats this trio, man. Every single season, they are top 3 in points. The Oilers would finish their season 52, 20, and 10, finishing first in their division yet again. Somehow, we would end up losing in the first round to Connor Bedard and the San Jose Sharks in 6 games. Buffalo would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat San Jose in 7 games in the Stanley Cup final. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. Patrick Laine would take home the Conn Smythe. Connor Hellebuck would take home the Vezina, and Alexander Barkov would take home the Selke. The gang is still back together. Wayne Gretzky is still a 99. There is only 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Wayne Gretzky being a 99 overall. The great one obviously has to be the same overall as his number, the highest ever and the greatest ever. Damn, I just realized I was straight glazing there. I was spitting on it. I was doing splits on it. Wayne Gretzky, my Lord and Savior. Gretzky would end up with 54 goals and 121 points, while Connor McDavid, he would have 110. Gretzky yet again leads the entire NHL in points, followed by Connor McDavid, the other GOAT, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Austin Matthews, and Matthew Tkachuk. The Oilers would finish their season 45, 28, and 9, finishing second in their division, only behind Vegas. And would you look at that, we lost to Vegas yet again in the second round, but this time we would end up getting swept. Are you kidding me? A clean sweep. That is so embarrassing, man. Why can we not beat Vegas? The New Jersey Devils would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Vegas, yes sir, in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. Wayne Gretzky would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. The Conn Smythe would go to Holtz. Vasi would take home the Vezina, and Jack Hughes would actually take home the Selke. Wayne Gretzky has now dropped down to a 98 overall. McDavid, he's still a 99, and Draisaitl is still a 96, but somehow Wayne would end up dropping. I mean, he is 33 years old. Defensively, we have Josh Morrissey at a 90 overall. Keandre Miller, yeah, we should be definitely winning some Stanley Cups here. Our goalie is Carter Hart at an 86, and Freddie Anderson is our backup at an 80, so this team is not bad at all. Wayne Gretzky would put up 59 goals and 124 points, continuing his dominance, while McDavid would have 32 goals, 102 points. Draisaitl dropped down a lot, down to 84 points. He had 38 goals, though. Mark Scheifele would end up having 37 goals, 93 assists for 130 points. More than Wayne Gretzky. What the hell is going on here? Followed by Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers. Wow, the Winnipeg Jets are absolutely insane. Sidney Crosby at 41 years old puts up 50 goals and 106 points. Jason Robertson, Connor McDavid. The Oilers would finish their season with a 45, 28, and 9 record, finishing second in their division. Somehow we would lose in the second round yet again, this time to Vancouver in 7 games. Pittsburgh would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Vancouver in the Stanley Cup finals. Mark Scheifele would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, while Wayne Gretzky, he would take home the Maurice Richard. Cale Makar would take home the Conn Smythe for Pittsburgh. Devin Levi would take home the Vezina, and Alexander Barkov would take home the Selke. Gretzky has dropped down to a 96 overall, and we only have 2 more years left with the Edmonton Oilers before he gets traded to the LA Kings. So hopefully we can win another Stanley Cup. Somehow McDavid is still a 99 at 32 years old. Gretzky's only 2 years older than him. Why is Gretzky dropping but yet putting up better points? At 35 years old, Gretzky would have his best season yet, 62 goals and 163 points, followed by McDavid. He had 48 goals, 119 points. Draisaitl 93, he would have 46 goals. Gretzky would obviously lead the entire NHL in points, followed by Connor McDavid, the GOAT, Nathan MacKinnon, Tage Thompson, Mark Stone, and Patrick Laine. For goals, Gretzky was clear ahead. Nobody even got 50 goals, and he had 62. The Oilers would also have their best season yet, 59 wins, 20 losses, 3 overtime losses, and they would finish first in their division. We would end up losing in the very first round to Connor Bedard and the San Jose Sharks in 7 games, and the Buffalo Sabres would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Vegas in 5 games in the Stanley Cup final. Wayne Gretzky is Wayne Gretzky. Tage Tage Thompson would take home the Conn Smythe, Carter Hart would take home the Vezina, and Quinton Byfield would take home the Selke. And we are in Gretzky's final season as an Edmonton Oiler. He is a 95 overall, still on the first line with a 97 McDavid and a 96 Draisaitl. Can we win our second Stanley Cup as an Edmonton Oiler, or is Gretzky only going to win one with the Edmonton Oilers? For reference, he won 4 in real life with the Oilers and then never won again. So hopefully we can win at least 2 here. Wayne Gretzky somehow would end up with 80 goals and 171 points. I don't know what I'm seeing right now. I honestly cannot believe it. I mean, this dude scored 80 goals at age 36 and had 171 points. That is just completely insane. McDavid would have 58 and 133, Draisaitl 119, 36 goals. Gretzky would obviously have the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by McDavid, Draisaitl, his 2 line mates, Mitch Marner, Franzen, who is a Stefan Franzen, 24 years old, 109 points, Adam Fox, Kaprizov, and David Pastrnak. Edmonton would have a 53, 23, and 6 record, finishing first in their division. And despite having the 3 greatest offensive weapons of all time in Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and Wayne Gretzky, we would end up losing in the very first round in 5 games to Seattle. And the Montreal Canadiens would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Vancouver in 7 games. Gretzky would obviously take home all the awards. Adam Fox would take home the Norris, Arlo would take home the Conn Smythe, and Elias Lindholm would take home the Selke. And that's going to do it on Wayne Gretzky's career on the Edmonton Oilers. It is now time to get him traded to the LA Kings. That is right, Wayne Gretzky will now start his career on the LA Kings for 8 more seasons, and on that 8th season he will get traded to the St. Louis Blues. He is obviously a 99 overall on that first line with Kevin Fiala and Victor Arvidsson. Not the same as playing on a line with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but it's gonna have to do. We also have Kopitar at an 88. He is 35 years old though, so he's probably gonna retire within 5 years. We have Drew Doughty on the back end, but he is also old too. He's 32 years old, 89 overall. In his very first season with LA, he's going to put up 63 goals and 143 points. Kevin Fiala will come in second with 85, and Anze Kopitar would have 80. Gretzky would obviously have the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by the GOAT Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Nikita Kucherov, and Sidney Crosby. The LA Kings would finish first in their division with a 49, 28, and 5 record. The LA Kings would end up losing in the second round to the Calgary Flames in 5 games, and the Colorado Avalanche would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Montreal in 5 games. Wayne Gretzky continues to absolutely dominate. He would take home the Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Mikko Rantanen would take home the Conn Smythe. Freddie Anderson would take home the Vezina. Gretzky is still a 99 overall. Kevin Fiala is an 88, and Adrian Kempe is an 85 on that first line. Not the greatest first line, but Gretzky definitely carries with a 99 overall. And I think it's finally time. Wayne Gretzky, you are now the new captain of the LA Kings. In his second season with LA, Gretzky would put up 64 goals and 131 points. Anze Kopitar would have 83, Kempe 66. He would have the most points in the NHL yet again, followed by Sidney Crosby, who's 36 years old and had 122 points. Then followed by the GOAT, Nathan MacKinnon. We already know about him. Austin Matthews, Nikita Kucherov, and Brad Marchand. The LA Kings would end up finishing 41, 34, and 7, finishing second in their division. And would you look at that, they're going to be playing the Edmonton Oilers in round number 1. And the curse of Vegas will continue as they beat us in the second round in 6 games. And the Tampa Bay Lightning would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they sweep Vegas in the Stanley Cup final. Crosby would take home the Ted Lindsay, Kucherov would take home the Maurice Richard, Gretzky would take home the Art Ross, and Crosby would take home the Hart. The Conn Smythe would go to Victor Hedman, and Gretzky would yet again take home the Selke. Mr. Wayne is still a 99 overall, obviously. Kevin Fiala is an 87, Kempe an 86. Wayne Gretzky would have his best season yet as an LA King, 74 goals and 151 points. Absolutely insane. His next closest was 77. That is like a 70-point difference between first and second place. That might be the greatest season of all time, to be honest. Of course, he would have the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by Leon Draisaitl, Nathan MacKinnon, Mark Scheifele, and Brad Marchand. The Kings would finish with a 46, 30, and 6 record, finishing first in their division, and the Edmonton Oilers would end up beating us in the very first round in 6 games, and the Rangers would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Winnipeg in 5 games. Gretzky would yet again have one of the greatest regular seasons of all time. The Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Panarin would take home the Conn Smythe. Gretzky is still sitting at a 99 overall. Why the hell is Trevor Moore on the first line at an 84? I think we should move up either Kempe. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We'll put up Kempe there. Kempe, Wayne Gretzky, and Kevin Fiala. That is the first line that we are going with. Gretzky would have a bit of a step back this season. 58 goals and 112 points. Still a great overall year, but not on the same level that he was on. He was also a minus 11. Kempe had 64 points and Fiala had 56. Wayne Gretzky would still lead the entire NHL in points, followed by Auston Matthews, David Pastrnak, Sebastian Aho, and Svechnikov. Auston Matthews would end up having one more goal than Wayne Gretzky, and oh my god, the LA Kings would have a terrible season, 32, 43, and 7, finishing dead last in their division, missing the playoffs. Tampa Bay would end up going on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Colorado in 7 games. Wayne Gretzky would take home the Selke and the Art Ross. Frank Vetrano would take home the Conn Smythe. Vasi with another Vezina, his 3rd straight. Wayne Gretzky is a superstar who is a 99 overall. Gretzky would have a comeback season, scoring 70 goals and 151 points. The next closest would be Kevin Fiala at 73 and Trevor Moore 73. He would obviously have the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by David Pastrnak, Connor McDavid, Mark Scheifele, and Jason Robertson. And yet again, the LA Kings will not make the playoffs as they finish with a 41, 37, and 4 record, finishing 5th in their division. And the Vancouver Canucks would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Tampa Bay in 7 games in the Stanley Cup final. For reference, EA Sports is based in Vancouver, so we all know what's going on here, right? Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player to ever live. The Conn Smythe would go to Elias Pettersson. Georgiev would take home the Vezina. Gretzky is still in 99 overall, obviously. Deneau is down there with an 88. You know what? Screw it. Put him up here in the first line. Actually, we get a +3 from that. I'm going to leave it with Trevor Moore, 87, and Kevin Fiala, 88. We are slowly going down a rabbit hole that we will not come back from. Oh my god, look at the eyes on this guy. You can't tell me with a straight face that this guy does not do a line of cocaine before every single game. The Great One would have another great season, 63 goals and 132 points. Kevin Fiala would have 86, Trevor Moore 69. Nice. He would have the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Connor McDavid, and Nikita Kucherov. And unfortunately, yet again, the LA Kings would miss the playoffs. They would finish 36, 37, and 9. And the Vancouver Canucks yet again will win the Stanley Cup, this time sweeping Toronto in the Stanley Cup final. Wayne Gretzky is Wayne Gretzky. The Conn Smythe would go to JT Miller. Logan Thompson would take home the Vezina, and Elias Lindholm would take home the Selke. Gretzky has dropped down to a 98 overall. Kevin Fiala is all the way up at a 90, and Trevor Moore is an 86. Gretzky would put up 70 goals and 132 points. Kevin Fiala had 82, and Trevor Moore had 72. Obviously, Gretzky had the most goals and points in the entire NHL yet again. We already knew that, but Robert Thomas would come in 2nd place with 105. Kyle Connor, Jack Hughes, Sidney Crosby, 41 years old, putting up 55 goals and 98 points. Finally, the LA Kings are back in the playoffs. They would go 44, 29, and 9, finishing 3rd in their division. And the St. Louis Blues would end up beating us in the conference finals in 6 games. And they would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Toronto in 6 games as well. Wayne Gretzky is Wayne Gretzky. Dougie Hamilton would take home the Norris. Robert Thomas would take home the Conn Smythe. Carter Hart would take home the Vezina. Wayne Gretzky has dropped down to a 94 overall, still on that first line with Kevin Fiala. And who the hell is this? Oh, it's the guy who does coke. My bad, buddy. This is Gretzky's last season in LA. He's going to play 62 games with the LA Kings and then get traded to the St. Louis Blues. At the trade deadline, the LA Kings are 28, 27, and 6, and it is now time for Gretzky to get traded to the St. Louis Blues. And there he is, Wayne Gretzky at a 93 overall on the first line of the St. Louis Blues with Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich. An 89 and an 88, and this team's not bad at all. Where are they at in the standings? They are currently in a wild card spot, 4th in the Central with a 35, 27, and 2 record. Let's see if they will make the playoffs. Gretzky would finish the season with 47 goals and 91 points in 79 games. He would have 72 points in 61 games for the LA Kings and 19 points in 18 games for the St. Louis Blues. Matthews would have the most points in the league, followed by William Nylander with 103, Connor McDavid, Kyle Connor, Mikko Rantanen, and Philip Forsberg. For goals, Big German Leon Draisaitl had the most at 57, followed by Matthews 55 and Kyle Connor 52. St. Louis would end up finishing with a 47, 32, 2-3 record, finishing second in the Central. And the St. Louis Blues would end up losing in the first round to the Colorado Avalanche in 5 games. And the Philadelphia Flyers would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Calgary in 7 games in the Stanley Cup final. Nylander took home the Ted Lindsay, Draisaitl took home the Maurice Richard, Matthews would take home the Art Ross, and William Nylander would take home the Hart. Tony DeAngelo somehow won the Norris. Sidney Crosby would take home the Conn Smythe for the Philadelphia Flyers. What? It is now time for Wayne Gretzky to sign with the New York Rangers and finish off his NHL career. So now Gretzky only has 3 more seasons left in his career, all with the New York Rangers, obviously. Let's finish the Great One's career. He's going to be a 90 overall on that first line with Artemi Panarin and Patrick Kane, who are a 90 and 93. And this team is very good, and they should be able to compete for a couple championships for the next 3 years. Hopefully every single season, and at least we get one, because we have not won a Stanley Cup since Gretzky's rookie year with the Edmonton Oilers. Gretzky would end up scoring 25 goals and 70 points in 82 games. Draisaitl will have the most points in the entire NHL with 114, followed by Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov, Mikko Rantanen, and Austin Matthews. For goals, Matthews would have the most at 54, followed by Draisaitl, Evgeny Malkin, who had 48, and Alex Ovechkin. The Rangers would end up finishing 47, 26, and 9, finishing second in the Metro. The Rangers would end up losing to the Penguins in 5 games, and they would go on to win the Stanley Cup. Leon Draisaitl is in fact him. Sidney Crosby would take home the Conn Smythe. Vasi took home the Vezina, and Bo Horvat would take home the Selke. Gretzky now is a 91 overall. Artemi Panarin has moved up to a 94, and Patrick Kane is still a 90. We need to run it back, and hopefully this time we can win the Stanley Cup with the Rangers. Zibanejad is a 90 also. Wayne Gretzky would end up putting up 24 goals and 69 points. Nice. McDavid would have the most points in the league, followed by Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Steven Stamkos, and Nikita Kucherov. For goals, yet again, Matthews would have the most, followed by Stammer, McDavid, Rantanen. Evander Kane had 46. The Rangers would have a 45, 28, and 9 record, finishing second in the Metro. The New York Rangers would end up losing in the conference finals to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5 games, and they would go on to win the Stanley Cup, beating the Vancouver Canucks in 6 games. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. Nikita Kucherov would take home the Conn Smythe. Vasi would take home the Vezina. Going into his final season in the NHL, Wayne Gretzky is a 91 overall, still on the first line with Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin. Alright Wayne, this is the last dance, buddy. This is your last shot at getting a second Stanley Cup. And in his final season in the NHL, Gretzky would score 23 goals, have 46 assists, and 69 points. McDavid would have the most points with 113, followed by Alexander Barkov. Actually, no, they were tied at 113. Barkov, big year for him, 42 goals, 113 points, followed by Matthew Tkachuk, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, and Braden Point. The Rangers would finish their season 48, 30, and 4, finishing third in the Metro. And this is Wayne Gretzky's last chance at a Stanley Cup. Will he be able to do it in his final season in the NHL, or is he going to retire with only 1 Stanley Cup? Unfortunately, Gretzky and the Rangers are going to go out in the first round in 7 games to Columbus. And what a better way to end it than the Edmonton Oilers winning the Stanley Cup in Gretzky's final season, beating Carolina in 7 games. Connor McDavid would take home the Conn Smythe. And that is going to do it on Wayne Gretzky's amazing career in the NHL. We replayed his entire career from start to finish, just like how it went in real life. Starting out on the Oilers, then the LA Kings, then the St. Louis Blues, and finally the New York Rangers. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on so you don't miss a single upload. And comment below what you would like to see next. And remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.